I actually want to start with this from the AP. It says 2 climate change protesters were arrested Monday after they smashed a protective glass panel covering a famous Diego Velázquez oil painting at London's National Gallery, according to police. The 2 activists from the group Just Stop Oil targeted Velázquez's The Toilet of Venus, also known as the Rokeby Venus, with small hammers. Photos showed the protective glass panel punctured with several holes. Just Stop Oil, which has previously led similar protests targeting famous artworks in public buildings, said Monday's action was to demand Britain's government immediately halt all licensing for the exploration, development, and production of fossil fuels in the UK. Just Stop Oil said protesters hammered the glass panel, then told people at the gallery, women did not get the vote by voting. It's time for deeds, not words. Yes, we want deeds, not words. And in order to, bring about change. And so the deed of destroying a painting will result in global temperatures cooling down, I guess, is the logic. I don't quite understand it, but that's their logic. I think we have the clip of them carrying out this vandalism.
Women did not get the vote by voting. It is time for deeds and not words. It is time to just stop oil.
Politics is failing us. Politics failed women in 1914. If millions will die due to new oil and gas licensing, millions! If we love history, if we love art, and if we love our families, we must just stop oil.
Millions will die because of oil licensing. I don't know how that could possibly be the case. It seems absurd. But he was yelling it. He yelled it very loudly, and he emphasized millions. So when he said millions will die because of oil licensing, I was skeptical. But then when he shouted millions, that's when I knew he was serious. That was the argument that won me over. I didn't believe it the first time, but when he shouted it, well, that's how you know. Now, we talked about a similar thing yesterday. In that case, it was the protesters vandalizing statues. But when it comes to cultural vandalism, this is even worse than the statues because they are destroying, or at least attempting to destroy, priceless historic works of art that have been loved and admired for centuries. And the fact that this is allowed to happen is the greatest outrage of all. And it really is allowed. Like these climate alarmist dweebs, they just waltz into these museums with their dumb little t-shirts on, and everyone knows what they're going to do, and they just start casually defacing art worth millions of dollars. And again, everyone knows what they're going to do, and they simply do it. This could easily be stopped. That's a theme in Western civilization right now, bad behavior that could easily be stopped. But the people in charge of stopping it either lack the will or the competence or both, and usually it's both. That's why these museums, these museums should not be trusted with this artwork at all anymore. They are not stewards of the work like they should be. They sit back and just watch as the work that they've been entrusted with is defiled. And that's totally outrageous. I mean, I firmly believe, I said yesterday that the protesters who vandalize statues should go to jail for 10 years. And I certainly believe that. I think lethal force would be justified to protect these paintings. It would be totally morally justified. Especially if everybody knows that going in. If that's the policy, like you go in and you start vandalizing a priceless work of art, they're going to use lethal force to stop you. And so if you decide to do it, then you brought that, no one feels sorry for you. That's on you. The only downside to using lethal force is just that it might damage the painting even more. That's the only reason that I could see to not do that. But the point is that kind of measure morally would be more than justified to protect these things from these scumbags, these despicable, slimy little worms who've never contributed a single thing of value to human society and never will. And these are the people destroying what has value. This is another theme in Western civilization right now as it falls, okay, that you have non-contributing parasites whose only function is to destroy what is good and worthwhile and valuable. That's all they want to do. That's all they're interested in doing. Think about the looters going into a local business and cleaning it out. People who contribute absolutely nothing to society, taking from the people who do, and taking just for the sake of taking, like destroying for the sake of destroying. It's just not sustainable. It's not a sustainable arrangement. The contributors need to clamp down on and punish the destructive non-contributors while there is still something left to protect. You know, it's like I imagine playing a football game. Imagine two teams on the field, 22 guys on the field playing the game, and these are the guys that are actually in the game, contributing to the team. But then imagine a bunch of people on the sidelines who are standing there, allowed to, stand there and throw rocks and stones at the players and trip them as they run down the field, interfere in the game that they aren't even playing in or contributing to. They're not even on the team. But you couldn't play the game that way. It'd be impossible to play. You can't allow that. It destroys the game. When people who have no stake in it are allowed to interfere just to amuse themselves, it ruins everything. That's why you can't allow it. You just can't. I mean, that's why if someone, during a game, someone runs onto the field disrupting it, they get tackled and dragged out. Because we can't play when you're here doing this just for your own amusement. And yet we have people in our society who essentially for their own amusement are wreaking destruction and trying to destroy what is of great value. And they are allowed to continue doing it. The other thing about these climate people especially is that, I mean, they really hate humanity. I've said this before, but they want to save Earth, supposedly. But for what? What do you want to say? Like, to what end? Supposedly, you're out to save. Putting aside the fact that even if Earth is hanging in the balance, which it isn't, that this would not result in saving it. Like, this is not a rational strategy for saving Earth from whatever catastrophe you think is about to happen. But putting all that to the side, whether Earth is in danger or not, what makes Earth valuable, what makes it worth saving, is that it is home. It's our home. It is what the human species calls home. And so they are actively trying to make human life worse. And that's why things like destroying a painting, I don't know, if you take a very materialistic, kind of mechanistic view of life, you might look at a painting and say, oh, who cares? It's just images on a canvas. But it's much more than that. Art is part of what makes life worth living. It's part of what gives meaning to life. It's, beauty. Our capacity to create and appreciate beauty is part of what makes human life worth living, and it's part of what makes human life special and distinct from any other known species in the universe. We're the only known species that can do anything like create art. Which is why it's just, of all the things that these people could go out to destroy, it's very telling that they choose that. They go for the things that set the human species apart. They go for the things that make human life worthwhile, and that's what they hate. Because in the end, these are just nihilists. And if the Earth does need to be saved, I'll tell you one thing for sure, nihilists are not the ones that we want out there trying to save it. All right.